Good morning, everyone. I am Mary Nicole Azuelo, and today we're going to talk about the third, fourth, and fifth characteristics of assessment method. So the third is practicability. Next, the fourth one is justness, and the fifth one, which is the number three in my topic, is morality in assessment. So practicability as the third characteristic of assessment method. When we say practicability from the root word practical, oftentimes a person who is called practical is wise in decision making because he chooses an item that satisfies him while also it costs him less. So being practical is being satisfied without spending too much effort, too much money, too much time, right? In assessment methods, it is also important to be practical. For assessment method, practicability means the test can be satisfactorily used by teachers and researchers without undue expenditure of time, money, and effort. In other words, practicability means usability. So practicability, as I said earlier, practical is being satisfied without spending too much on time, money, and effort. And it's stated here as its meaning that practicability is a test that can be satisfactorily used by teachers without spending too much time, money, and effort, right? Now, how do we determine practicability? Well, that's easy. We have 5 factors to determine practicability. We have ease of administration, we have ease of scoring, ease of interpretation and application. Number 4, low cost. And number 5, proper mechanical makeup. So what are these 5 factors? Number 1, ease of administration. So an assessment is practical or has the practicability when it has the ease of administration. To facilitate ease of administration of the test, instructions must be complete and precise. Okay? And as a rule, group tests are easier to administer than individual tests. Because why is it practical when there is an ease of administration? As an example, it is more practical to conduct a group test rather than an individual test because it costs you less effort and time, right? Because it saves your time and it costs you less effort. Not that it compromises the quality of the assessment, but it's just more beneficial to the examinees and also to the teachers, to the examiner, right? Because if you conduct a group test, the instructions is only said once. If you compare it to an individual test where you get the students to come, the examiners to come one by one, it costs you time because you will repeat the instructions. Unlike if it's a group test, you can only say the instructions once to everyone. If you compare that to an individual test, you keep repeating the same instruction again and again every time a student comes in and when he or she finishes. So if you spend 30 seconds every instruction to a pupil. So 30 seconds times 30 pupils, so that's a lot of seconds. It costs you minutes of your time already. And not counting the time also spent on the examination and the actual examination. Unlike if you conduct a group test, the 30 second instruction that you keep on repeating for 30 pupils will only be shortened to just 30 seconds, right? 30 seconds of instruction to everyone. So that's why it's more practical to have an ease of administration. The instructions must first be complete and precise for the administration of assessment to flow smoothly. Next, it is practical when there is an ease of scoring. So ease of scoring. Ease of scoring depends upon the following such as 1. Construction of the test is objective. When we say objective, the answer to the questions are already given or already seen in the test paper. For example, multiple choice, right? The answers is already seen in the test paper. Next is answer keys are adequately prepared. That's 2. So, in conducting an assessment or creating a test, it is important to prepare answer key beforehand because it also saves your time. It saves you time and it saves you effort. Why? Because if you already have an answer key, you don't have to read each question in the test paper again and again, right? Because, yeah, I know the answer is already in your mind. Maybe you memorize the answer, but you have to read the question to know, right? Unlike if you have the answer key already, you just put it on the left or wherever you want it, beside the test paper of the pupil, and then compare them. Which is related to number 3, scoring directions are fully understood. So, a correct answer means a correct point, a 1 point. And then a wrong answer means 0 point. So that is the meaning of scoring directions are fully understood. So, ease of scoring, you have the construction of the test objective. It's not an essay type. It's just multiple choice. It's just answers written, letters or numbers, like, or word, a single word, right? And you have those on your answer key. So you can just look at your answer key, compare them, not in the answer key, or it's not the same on your answer key, then it's wrong. And wrong means 0 point. And a correct answer means a 1 point. So those are ease of scoring, right? Okay, do you understand? Likewise, it is easier if examinees are instructed to write their answer as letter or number or word in one column at the right. It is obsolete and impractical to let the examinees write the response column before the item or left column. We usually have received our test papers with writing our answers, with the format of writing our answers before the item. But it is stated here that it is obsolete and impractical. So, it is preferred and more practical when the answer is written on a column on the right. So, if you are facing your test paper, the right side, you put the answers there. That's how it is. And that is how it is stated here, that is more practical. Next is ease of interpretation and application. That's for number 3. Results of tests are easy to interpret and apply if tables are presented. All scores must be given equivalent from the tables without necessity of computation. As a rule, norms must be based on age and grade or year level, as in the case of the school achievement tests. It is also desirable if all the achievement tests must be provided with separate norms for rural and urban learners at various degree of mental ability. So for example, I am showing an example right here. So we have the scores of these children, of these pupils rather, and then their age bracket. Now, you compare those, you write their scores, and then tally, then get the average, get the percentage of scores. Then after that, you will have the ease of interpretation application. You will know that, children, my pupil who are in the age of 7 are kind of slow in this topic in the first grading, but the pupils of 8 years of age can keep up. Also, they have also high scores, while pupils ages 9 have perfect scores, right? For example, those are the results. So it means that the pupils that aged higher means they understood the lesson well because of their age, the maturity of their brain, their mental ability. And then ages 8, they also have good records, which is they are able to keep up with the lesson well. And also pupils who are ages 7 are, they're kind of slow pa, and they still need attention. So the topic that you've given should be explained more, or you should pay attention to the children that are aged 7 years old. Basta whatever will be interpreted on your data. So the lower the scores that you get means your children, those pupils needs more attention. So those are the interpretations from the collected data, and then how you will improve the performances of these students, of these pupils who got lower scores. Number 4 is low cost. So I have mentioned earlier that being practical, or a practical thing, is about its usability, but also about not being able to spend too much while being useful. It is more practical if the test is low cost material wise. It is also economical if tests can be reused by future teachers. So how can we make our test economical? For example, you ask your pupils to write their answers on a different sheet because you want it to be economical. Material-wise, you use a paper that can be reusable. Papers that are inexpensive, so a regular copier paper or a regular bond paper. And also, you can ask your children, your pupils, to not write something on the test sheet or the questionnaires, so that the next batch of grade 1 or the next teacher for grade 1 can still use these questionnaires and test paper for the next generation, okay, after they have used it. So it became economical, right? It can be reused as stated. So those two is one of my examples of how a test can be low cost and economical. Number 5, proper mechanical makeup. So a good test must be printed clearly in an appropriate font size for the grade or year level the test is intended to be given. So of course, you should not be giving a test that has small font sizes for lower grade levels. For example, kindergarten, grade 1, primary grades, grade 1, because their knowledge about the words and the letters is still limited. So they still get the letters mixed up in their minds, in their brain, their cognitive. And also, you cannot give unclear pictures to grade 1, because if you're giving a visual test, of course the pictures should be big and easier to see for them to describe what is in the picture. So careful attention to the pictures and illustrations must be given to lower. As I've said earlier, it should be, the items on your test should have pictures for them to should have illustrations and pictures for them to better understand the questions or what you are asking them to answer to. So that is all for proper mechanical makeup. Again, we have 5 factors that determine practicability. We have ease of administration, we have ease of scoring, we have ease of interpretation and application, low cost, and proper mechanical makeup. So you have to remember these 5 factors to determine the practicability of an assessment. So we are moving on to the 4th characteristic of assessment method. So we have justness. Justness is the 4th characteristic of assessment method. It is the degree to which the teacher is fair in assessing the grades of the learners. The learners must be informed on the criteria they are being assessed. So for example, as we all know, or as we have experienced in every class orientations, right? We are always oriented on the criteria or the rubrics that we have, or the grading system of the subject or of the course, right? It's the fairness for the students to learn what are the standards of this course, to what should they do, what part should they pay attention to. Like in written exams, those have before, when when face-to-face classes is still happening, written tests have high percentage, right? Especially performance test, it has high percentage. Just for the fairness, just for the information of the students, how they are assessed, diba? So for example, in my case, I just recently had my assessment in NC2 in SMAU. I got a scholarship from TESDA, and we are constantly reminded of the rubrics or the rubrics or the assessment criteria even before we started training for the actual welding for actual yes so we are briefed that we have that in assessment there's 20% for oral interview, 20% for written exam, and 60% for the actual. So we have to or for the performance. So we have to perform, and if we have to do well in our performance in welding so that we can pass the assessment. So even if we started training, we are constantly reminded that this has a 60% in assessment, right? So that's why I have to do well in training. I have so that when the actual assessment comes, I know what to do. I know already that I have to do my best, right, in assessment because it has a higher percentage. So if I fail there, I'm gonna fail too in my assessment, right? I'm gonna fail my scholarship. I'm gonna waste all of my efforts of training. So that is why, for the fairness of the students, they are constantly reminded, they're oriented of the criteria or the grading system of how they are being assessed or how they are being graded. The teacher must be just in assessing the achievements of the learners based on the aforementioned criteria. If learners' achievements are assessed fairly and justly by teachers, they are inspired and their interest to study hard is aroused. So as a student, if we learned about our achievements, that we are graded fairly or we are assessed fairly, just as what was stated in the grading system or in the criteria, the rubrics, then we are motivated to do well again and again because we are rewarded through our efforts and what we have achieved. As I stated, we are inspired and our interest in studying hard is aroused. So justness is very important in assessment for the fairness, right? For being fair to the students. And now we're moving on to the last topic, which is the fifth characteristic of assessment method, morality in assessment. So morality, moral. It is their personal view or perception of the right and wrong according to the society's standard. Morality in assessment is the degree of secrecy of grades of the learners. Morality or ethics in assessment of test results or grades must be confidential to avoid slow learners from embarrassment. So morality in assessment should be confidential. The grades or the scores should be confidential. Learners, except if learners who pass the test with flying colors or the honor student or students. For instance, the top 10 must be published at the Dean's Office Bulletin Board as incentive. So as a reward, right? So they have their reward because they achieved high grades or just a sense of achievement for the learners. Excuse me. Just a sense of achievement or, reward for the learners who worked hard this semester or this grading period. But learners with low scores or grades must be kept confidential. Only the learners concerned and the teacher should be aware of the test results or grades. Parents whose children are low achievers must be informed in order that they can advise their children to study hard or hire a tutor to assist their children in their studies. So as a teacher, you should call the parents of these learners who achieved low grades or low scores so that they can motivate their children to study hard, and also they can look for ways such as finding a tutor for their children to improve in studying. Okay, so those are the 3 characteristics of assessment method. We have practicability, justness, and morality and assessment. So these 3 characteristics should be remembered as a teacher. These are important especially when we are we're conducting an assessment for elementary levels. So, practicability, we have number 5, proper mechanical makeup, especially in our grade levels for our kindergartens to grade 1s. It is important to have bigger font sizes. So these are things that we must remember as bachelors of elementary education. That's all. Thank you. I hope you've learned something.